Hello, my name is Albert Garcia, and I'm a librarian with the Contra Costa County Library. Thank you for being here today for today's program, Bridging the Gap Through Respectful Conversations. This program will have a Spanish interpretation, and I'm going to invite our Spanish interpreter, Vanessa Cardenas, to come on now to explain how to turn that function on, and then we'll get our program started. Vanessa?
Thank you. Buenas tardes, damas y caballeros. En esta reunión, ustedes tendrán la oportunidad de tener acceso a la interpretación al español. Solo necesita presionar el símbolo terráqueo en su pantalla o puede buscar los tres puntitos para seleccionar el idioma al español. Estamos a sus órdenes. Gracias por unirse a nosotros. Thank you and back to you.
Thank you, Vanessa. I'm just going to get this interpretation going. It's not been... There we go. Okay. And in just a minute, we're going to get our program started. So I'm going to share a slide about the library services. Great. Thank you for being here for today's program. The Contra Costa County Library is happy to connect you with our resources, services, and materials at all 26 of our branches. Access more than 1 million physical items, including international language collections and thousands of digital materials 24/7 at ccclib.org. Visit any library to use our public computers, printers, and free Wi-Fi. You can also visit one of our branches with laptops for on-site use or check out a Wi-Fi hotspot for 3 weeks. Contra Costa County Library's adult literacy program trains and supports volunteer tutors to deliver basic literacy instruction to adults throughout the county. Visit our website and sign up for a digital library card today. Thank you very much. And now I'm going to hand it over to our League of Women Voters representative today, Madeline Cronenberg.
Thank you so much, Albert. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Madeline Cronenberg, and on behalf of the Contra Costa County Library, the League of Women Voters Diablo Valley, the League of Women Voters West Contra Costa County, and Contra Costa County TV, welcome to our community conversation webinar, Bridging the Gap Through Respectful Conversations. Before we begin, I would like to review a few housekeeping items. This is a Zoom webinar, so the audience's microphones are muted and the videos are turned off. If you have any questions for the moderator or panelists, please submit them using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. A member of our team will share your questions with the moderator during the Q&A portion of the presentation. This webinar is being recorded, and it will be posted to the YouTube channels of the Contra Costa County Library and the League of Women Voters Diablo Valley. Site addresses for those YouTube channels will be displayed on screen at the end of the program. Additionally, Contra Costa County TV is broadcasting this webinar today and will rebroadcast the program. The dates and times will be posted on your screen at the end of the webinar. Contra Costa Television is available to watch on Comcast Channel 27, AT&T UVerse Channel 99, Astound Channel 32, and online at contracostatv.org. We will also post the contact information for our panelists and the date and subject of our next community conversation at the end of this program. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan grassroots organization working to protect and expand voting rights and ensure everyone is represented in our democracy. We empower voters and defend democracy through advocacy, education, and litigation at the local, state, and national levels. The League of Women Voters of the United States believes that democratic government depends upon informed and active participation at all levels of government. We invite you to join the League of Women Voters and support our work. You can join the League by visiting lwvc.org/join. In times of division, It is vital for us to remember that the strength of our democracy lies in our ability to come together and work towards common goals. Divisive political discourse only hinders our progress and weakens our communities. We urge all individuals, regardless of political affiliation, to rise above partisan conflicts and focus on what unites us. Let's prioritize dialogue that builds bridges, not walls, and seek solutions that benefit all members of our society. It is now my pleasure to introduce our moderator for today's webinar, Contra Costa County Supervisor Diane Burgess. Supervisor Burgess is a longtime resident of Contra Costa County and has represented District 3 for the past 9 years. As a former small business owner and community volunteer, she served on the East Bay Regional Park District and on the Oakley City Council. She was a trustee on the East Bay Regional Parks District Board, a member of the Oakley City Council, and the executive director of Friends of the Marsh Creek Watershed. For her longtime environmental activism, Supervisor Burgess was inducted into the Contra Costa County Women's Commission Hall of Fame in 2016. Previously, she was chosen to the California State Assembly Woman of the Year 2012 for her varied volunteer work and engagement in her community. And now, Supervisor Burgess.
Well, thank you. I've got to say, when I got invited to participate in this event, I was wholeheartedly in, because I think this is such important work. And I want to thank everyone who is here or who listens to this and watches this later on. Spending time thinking about these things is really important, particularly in these times. And I think these are skills that you're always having to develop. You're never perfect at it. And I'll tell you personally, I serve on over 30 different committees, commissions, boards, and all of that. And I work with people all the time. And it's a challenge. It is a challenge. But I think where I start with people is to remind them that we are all humans, and that if we want to have good communication, it's important that we are present and we're not putting someone into a place of fear or confusion or anger or any of those things, because that turns a different part of your brain off. And then you're not really able to think about problem solving. And as a leader, it's important for me to not only be able to do that, but also to try to put people at ease so that they can do their best at communicating. And so I just am so grateful and look forward to learning from our panel members. I think we have a video that we wanted to show that kind of talks about, on the national level, how people are trying to practice these things as well. Are we going to show that video now?
Yes, I'm going to put that up. Just give me one moment.
All right.
In America today, the very fabric of our nation is being torn apart. We've never felt more divided, and we're too fixated on our differences. He's Black, and he's white. He grew up in the city, and he's a farm boy from Utah. He's a Democrat, and he's a Republican. On paper, we couldn't be more different, and yet we're both dads. We both love college basketball. We both have really stylish haircuts, and we're both proud Americans. We disagree passionately on lots of issues, but we're friends, and we respect each other. Politics is important, but it shouldn't define us or destroy our relationships. His name is Spencer Cox, and his name is Wes Moore, and we approve this message.
we're seeing it at every level of politics that there's a lot of conflict, but I personally have found it the most rewarding experience is to work with people that I actually don't always agree with. It's very rewarding. So I want to thank the League of Women Voters for always leaning in here in Contra Costa and doing such amazing work, really lifting up folks to think about being in politics, but also helping the public become as informed on everything as they can. We have an amazing panel today, and so I'm going to do introductions as we bring people in. The first person that I'm going to introduce is Cheryl Graeve. And Cheryl, I hope I said your last name right. My last name tends to get said in different ways, so please correct me when you do come on. Cheryl serves as the national organizer and director of programs for the National Institute of Civil Discourse, which is called the NICD. They're engaging in differences, disagree better in sacred spaces, and common sense American conversations. Through these programs, she works with the communities and partner organizations to foster civil discourse capacity and to help bridge political divides through online and in-person NICD programs. Over her career, Cheryl has worked nationwide with the passionate civic volunteers of the League of Women Voters of the United States as Senior Director of Field Support, served as Executive Director of AFL-CIO's National Youth Group, and was the Legislative Director for the Minnesota Public Interest Research Group, where she helped pass a state motor voter law designed to increase voter registration among underrepresented populations through public agencies. Welcome, Cheryl.
Thank you. Thank you, Supervisor Burgess. I'm going to share my screen now too. And I'm going to beg the audience's indulgence, apologies for my voice. That is a little rocky. I'm a little under the weather. But this program and this area is so important to me. The video that you saw of Governor Moore, I'm in Maryland, that's my governor, and Governor Cox, who was a creator during the National Governors Association, his leadership of the Disagree Better program is something we're sharing with you today and after this as part of resources available to you. What I want to say is I've been asked to talk a little bit about the national picture, where we are. I'm also a big believer in the power of individuals and the power of groups to be able to make change and difference. So I will give you also some tools, as will probably some of my other panel partners here. And I think one of the pieces that we heard from a speaker at one of our events recently, Tim Schreiber, was this culture was made by all of us. It can be changed by all of us. So with that, I'll walk through a couple of different scenarios with you here. Let's see. Oh, there we go. So where are we now? You can see there's different polls and different surveys, and I think we all know, many of us in our bones, through our own feeling, that our democracy faces some very serious threats. About 86% of voters feel that way across party. Nearly 1/3 of us, almost 100 million Americans, have ended a relationship over politics because of this partisan divide. We can see policymakers at all levels. We work a lot with the federal level Congress, but policymakers are divided along party lines, and 65% of Americans say they always or very often just feel exhausted when they're thinking about politics. We sort of have been living in a clash. We have sort of an old two-party system. Historically, both parties, Democrats and Republicans, have had a mix of conservatives, moderates, liberals. There were issues or leaders that attracted broad support to move something forward, and they worked within a constitution that requires broadly supported solutions. Now, our new two-party system it's polarized with the partisan intent on domination. So, party over country or over policy. It makes it very difficult for solutions to be advanced in that kind of environment, as you know, and maybe the supervisor herself has seen some of those kind of challenges. And unfortunately, once sorted, the parties do not become easily diverse again. We've seen some of the sort of dire consequences of this, of which you probably see in the news all the time. But the challenge for our democracy, the consequences are poor problem solving. And then for us as individuals, we have broken relationships. When we think about political leaders, you can see there's partisan paralysis. They're stuck in this partisan divide that doesn't allow for policymakers to advance problem solving or to our most pressing issues. And instead of policymakers being civil opponents with differing ideas, and a robust democracy requires different ideas. It's healthiest when we have different ideas, but now we've moved to becoming bitter enemies. In the citizenry, we have sort of two camps in a way. We have the political extremes on the right and the left, who basically see the other as sort of a mortal enemy, and that kind of evil requires an extreme response. Now that's a small percentage of both sides, but the everyday American is where we see families being fractured, we see friendships being fractured, but on the positive side, we have a huge hunger for functioning politics. That is a positive element in all of this. And that's something we've seen over the years, a growing number of groups and citizens becoming involved because they're hungry for functional politics. Breaking the polarization crisis down, we've got a couple of different areas of polarization. One, issues polarization, where sort of the distance between Republicans and Democrats on policy issues is polarized. And then we've got social polarization or affective polarization. It's how much animosity each side feels toward each other. When we look again at political leaders, we are seeing both in the issues polarization and the social polarization, the highest ever recorded level of polarization and continuing to rise, both issues and social polarization. We also see that within the political extremes of our American public, highest ever recorded and rising issue polarization, highest ever recorded and rising social polarization. And we know with that statistic I said, about a third of us ending a relationship because of politics, we, the everyday Americans, see the social polarization having that high recorded and rising polarization. However, again, here is a bright spot in this one I think we want to understand, and that is an issue polarization that is low and slowly rising. So, for example, we are led to believe that we are vastly different on policy issues, and that is not an accurate story. And so I'm hoping that part of this work can help us elevate a different story. So, why are Americans so angry with each other? One, because there's a perception gap. Americans think the difference between the average Democrat and Republican on an issue is twice as large as it actually is. And I'll show you a little example of a project that I'm working on, that demonstrates this perception gap. And then we've had social sorting since the 1990s. social sorting really began. Social identities like urban and rural and race and our faith orientations became highly correlated with political parties. And that makes us tribal. Now, on that perception gap, in Common Sense American is one of the programs we have. We have over 80,000 everyday Americans who've joined. We've got 25% Democrat, 25% Republican, about 46% independent. They choose an issue each year that we take up with Congress, and we present to them the best case for and the best case against that particular issue, ask them to weigh in, and then we share those results with Congress. So it's not advocating on a particular issue, it's just saying, here's the voice of everyday Americans where they see sensible, common sense policy opportunities. One of these areas is around workforce Pell, where that allows Americans who are not seeking a four-year college degree to be able to access Pell funds to do non-four-year college degree programs. And we asked, you can see that across the political spectrum, 89% of our members supported that idea of workforce Pell. On most of our issues, we find 75, 80% across party agreement on a particular issue. In this case, I'm talking a little perception gap. When you look at the bottom there, the red and the blue squares, what that shows is that the Republican members of Common Sense American thought that there would be about 58% support for workforce Pell by Democrats. In reality, that was 90%. In the same token, 45% Democrats thought that 45% of Republicans would support workforce Pell. And in fact, it was 89%. So you can see again, the gap is twice as far as what people are led to believe. And we have conversations after people engage on an issue, read the brief and weigh in. We invite them into conversation, and time again, we hear how surprised people are that they found a lot in common across political difference. So if we could together help shrink this perception gap, help elevate the story that we're not as divided on issues as we're led to believe, that can help us as part of a depolarizing effort, among with many other things. So what can you do? What can we do? You know, the power of the individual, we have the power to basically figure out how we interpret or react to a given conversation, a given moment in our civic engagement. And it's important to remember how important our relationships are, how powerful listening is. People want to be heard. Doesn't mean you have to agree, but there needs to be this listening space and environment. And we encourage you, as I know my colleagues will as well here, Braver Angels, great group, focus on learning and sharing rather than debating or convincing. Because in conversation, people rarely change their beliefs in a conversation, but people often expand their understanding through conversation. So here's some approaches that can help guide you, and some resources will be available afterwards that we will share with you, that the organizers will, the league will. So because listening is so important, be generous when you're doing it. We have 2 ears, 1 mouth. If we did twice as much listening and half as much speaking, we would have a better opportunity to create that sort of environment of civil discourse across our differences. Go into a conversation and assume good intent. People are hungry for solutions. People are hungry for civility and respect. Assume that the other people or person you're speaking with is holding some of that good intent. Be really genuine in your curiosity. Lean in, discover that other person or people. Remember that they're human. Excuse me. And we encourage you, obviously, to engage with respect. People want respect. We all want respect. So take your engagement seriously and respectfully. And then, of course, we're all human. Nobody is perfect. Go into your conversations with humility and take the opportunity to learn. So how you may do some of these things is to really ask thoughtful questions. Try to understand, not convince or persuade. Share your personal stories and experiences. It's your story. It's your experience. Nobody can take that from you. And when you share that, I know I've found myself a much more ability to lean in as I'm hearing somebody's own experience. Look for places where there's agreement. Acknowledge that. Hey, this is great. I learned something new. And share appreciation for just having the conversation, because we do need more connection and interweaving and personal relationships to help us build the webs of understanding that our country, our democracy need. So because building trust is so vital, and because it starts with you, there's a lot of stuff you can't control. You can control yourself. So here are some things that we encourage you to do. Ask yourself, what relationships do you have that are important for you to maintain or build or repair? Really think about that. Think about who you're connected with. You're connected with other networks of other people, like the League, like other groups. So work in those areas to bring this sort of civic bridge building muscle into those networks. What opportunities do you have to engage your differences productively? At gatherings, on social media, we can be positive messengers. We can not engage with the vitriol. That can be helpful. And of course, when we're engaging in our civic and democracy programs and projects. So in order to do that, I know sometimes it does feel daunting, right? The supervisor mentioned sometimes how challenging it is. Well, there are lots and lots of resources out there to help strengthen your capacity. And there are links again that'll be shared with you. But so use those tools that are available to you. The Dignity Index, which I've got an image of it here, it's a very simple tool that was developed to have people understand sort of the spectrum between dignity on the high end, 8, and contempt on the low end, 1. And they actually created it to have people sort of evaluate civic policy leaders. And what they found was, and what people found was, it was an important tool for us to use ourselves to understand how we are engaging with dignity or contempt for another. The Disagree Better initiative, that video you saw, there's going to be another video after that'll share these group of governors who are out there engaging across their political differences directly, responsibly, believing that our democracy requires differing ideas and we need to disagree better as we bring them together. They found that people just watching these videos, Stanford did some research, shows that that has a depolarizing effect. There's another group called the Builders. They have a detox challenge, great little tool, sets you up for a short engagement every day for 4 weeks. You can set up your phone to get these little notices, and they ask you to reflect and build your own bridge building and detoxification muscle. So training, you'll hear from Braver Angels, NICD. We've got a couple of programs that you may be interested in, and engage in opportunities like that Common Sense American program I mentioned. There's an opportunity to join the organization in April. We're going to be rating our 10 issues to choose one. You're welcome to join. Living Room Conversations, another great organization that has a wonderful, simple tool that you can use on any topic. They've got hundreds of topics. So with that, thank you. And I will turn it back over to the supervisor.
Cheryl, you're amazing. I can just feel how challenging that is. And you did great. You didn't even have to take a sip of water. I've got to say, I'm going to be using these resources myself. I've seen polarization within each party as well. And I will say that I've always approached many of the conversations that I have with people with a lot of those assumptions of, goodwill. But what I'm also finding is that there are people that are not actually approaching those conversations with those good intentions, and that it's a strategy. And so I'm trying to learn how to have those conversations without them going the wrong direction, validating and acknowledging what they have to say, but also kind of trying to not allow information that's not correct to be said. So it's a challenge.
Yeah, it is. And yeah, you're right. Deep breaths, being present, those kind of things.
Right. Yeah. Well, I will be reaching out. I've just recently learned about Braver Angels, and I can't wait to hear more about them. We have two folks from Braver Angels. We have Ellie Sears, who has always been passionate about doing the hard work of philanthropy at the grassroots level. She springs from a long line of community advocates and contributors to humanitarian efforts. Her commitment to Braver Angels is embedded in her DNA. She brings 35 years of business experience to Braver Angels. Her expertise is in strategic planning, sales management, training, recruitment, and project management. All contribute to her leadership results and effective support of Braver Angels locally and nationally. Ellie is deeply committed member and field leader of Braver Angels in the San Francisco Bay Area and is currently a Blue co-chair of the Braver Angels Berkeley, Oakland, San Francisco Alliance and a member of the Braver Angels ambassador team. We also have Dick Patterson, who is a co-chair of the San Francisco, Berkeley, Oakland Braver Angels Alliance. Dick is a retired economist and finance executive whose career spanned 40 years in the energy industry. And during his career, Dick worked with regulators, legislators, and industry leaders to develop clean energy solutions for California. Dick served for 10 years on the financial advisory board of the City Council of El Cerrito, where he lives. And Dick also served on the Contra Costa civil grand jury. I think we've crossed paths. Dick's going to speak first. I'm so excited to hear more about what you guys do.
All right, thank you, Supervisor Burgess. So Ellie and I are really delighted to be here and to talk about Braver Angels and the work that Braver Angels does to bridge the gap. We're going to start with a 4-minute video that will tell something about the history of Braver Angels and what its mission is. And then when that's done, Ellie and I will come back and tell you more what we're doing at the local level of Braver Angels. So let's have the video. Wrong video.
Was that working? Did you hear that?
Don't hear the video, but this is the wrong video.
Got it. Sorry. Okay. We're
It's the
going.
Braver Angels video.
But what's most important is how you resolve those different.
Sorry. This one here.
Yeah, that one.
Politics has always been a passionate subject, and we've always had deep political disagreements. That's the way it's supposed to be. But we've gotten to the point where people can't even talk to one another. Americans no longer see their political opponents as simply wrong or misguided. They see them as bad people whose ways of thinking are dangerous and incomprehensible. They see them as enemies. This level of rancor and mistrust threatens our democracy, and it makes it harder for us to move forward as a nation, regardless of who the president is.
The fact that we live in what feels like, some people call it a cold civil war, that takes a toll on all of us.
We've been excommunicated from a lot of our friends in the last couple of years, and it makes me sad.
This is one organization that's doing a lot to kind of overcome that and get people back to where we were, which is neighbors, friends, communities.
Better Angels was born in response to the crisis of polarization. We are truly bipartisan. From our staff to our funding to our board of directors, we're evenly split, half conservative, half liberal. Everything we do comes from the bottom up. We're an almost entirely volunteer-led operation. We wanted to see, could we get together a group of folks who voted for Trump and a group of folks who voted for Clinton and get them in a room together to see how can we bring people together to not get them to agree or to come to the middle, but to maybe change how they think about one another.
You know, it's funny. I think a lot of people would look at 2020 and argue that this is the least hospitable time for the work that we're doing because we know that our politics has a tendency to bring out the worst in us. But it also is an extraordinary opportunity because this deeper project of civic renewal, of healing the relationships that exist between the American people across the cultural and political divides, the importance of this project is going to become clearer and clearer to people over the course of this election.
A lot of people are going to have to let off steam. I really believe that it's better to do it in a productive way where they see each other as fellow human beings. It inspires me. Every Better Angels debate I take part in.
When you're there in person and you have to face the person you're talking to, we remember suddenly the rules of civil discourse and kind of how we should act in society. It's something that really distinguishes this form of conversation and debate.
It's all well and good to talk about civility and being nice to people, but the missing ingredient is courage.
In 2020, we also need courage, the courage that it takes to have a difficult conversation, to put yourself out there.
What we've been saying is that this year, it's not enough to call in our better angels. We have to call in our braver angels.
The name Braver Angels captures the evolving spirit of Better Angels. We have to be willing to summon the courage to see the best in the other side, see the best in our fellow Americans.
Courage means becoming a leader in your own community who's standing up for America, not just for your political party or your tribe or folks with whom you share an identity, but standing up for something larger that we can all believe in. If we can create a large enough movement that is clamoring for a more courageous style of politics, we can change the incentives.
That's something that can only be achieved through what we call patriotic empathy, this idea that your love for your country is demonstrated in your love for your fellow American. As Braver Angels, we're able to lean into that with courage and boldness.
It will make you feel like we can serve this place and our country can serve humanity in a way that is actually beautiful and actually does us justice.
This is not a left-wing movement. This is not a right-wing movement, but it is indeed an American movement. We still have it in us to be champions for what is right and what is graceful and what is decent here in the United States.
In this time of public health crisis, Braver Angels is taking its work online, hosting weekly online debates, virtual book discussions, concerts, skills training courses, and soon, one-on-one red-blue conversations. As Americans stay home to protect their fellow citizens, Braver Angels is bringing us together in new ways and helping us find the courage needed to transcend our partisan differences and overcome this challenge. Go to braverangels.org, sign up to join our email list, and at the end of the day, try to treat each other with respect, empathy, and find the courage needed to talk to people, even if, and perhaps especially when, you don't agree with them.
I hope you all enjoyed that video. I think it says a lot about the heart and soul we bring to our work. And it's really all about healing this terrible divide that has developed in our country. Anyone can join Braver Angels. We are open to all who are interested in learning skills about how to communicate better. And we hope you might want to really get involved directly and help us with our work. This is a grassroots organization. 99% of all the work that goes on in Braver Angels is done entirely by volunteers across the country. There is a very small group of people who are paid, as any large organization needs a few people that are paid to keep the lights on and, run the computer systems. But the important work is really done by volunteers at the grassroots level. 99% of our events that we put on, and there is a range of events, are free. You don't need to be a member of the organization. You can just jump on our calendar, find an event that you want to attend, either on Zoom or in person, and be there with us and learn. We don't exclude anyone. In the Bay Area, we have 4 alliances. The Berkeley, Oakland, San Francisco Alliance, and Dick and I are both co-chairs for. we have the Silicon Valley Alliance, and we have the Sonoma County Alliance. Those three all work very hard to put on the range of events that Braver Angels is known for and teach the skills that has become very, very popular, and more people are signing on every day to learn what we have to share. There is one alliance also in the Bay Area that is somewhat of an outlier, and that is the El Sobrante Alliance. They are specialists in working in their own community. They are a fully fledged member of alliance with Braver Angels, but they focus on homelessness and fire prevention using all the skills and the strategies that Braver Angels offers. And they are doing amazing work bringing their community together around these urgent concerns of homelessness and fire prevention. And I just want to stress that you do not need to be a member to attend any of our events. And hop on the website, look at the calendar, sign on for our newsletters, and you will always be informed of what's happening nationally and in the local Bay Area. There are 112 alliances across the country right now, and almost 60,000 Americans have participated in one way or another in a Braver Angels event. And we want to make that number higher and higher, keep it growing. Dick, anything you want to add?
No, I don't think so. Albert, can you go to slide 4, please?
Yes, give me just 1 second.
So while Albert's doing that, I can start.
That's the governor's.
No, slide, it'd be it's in your slide deck, right? It's the slide after the movie, after the film, the video. Right, there was a video with Abe Lincoln on a slide with Abe Lincoln on it.
Right.
Yeah, so go 2 slides beyond that.
Okay, I'm looking at the links of the videos that I brought up. So I've got Governors of the Power, and I've got I think Jose's Contra Costa election.
You don't have a deck for
the PowerPoint?
Yeah, the PowerPoint.
Yeah. Well, I have Cheryl's. I don't think I have yours.
You must, because you clicked on the link for the video.
I think he had that separate.
That was an email. That was in an email.
Okay, the deck was in the email that I sent to you too.
Okay, give me just a second.
So while Albert's doing that, I'm going to continue to talk so we don't get stumped here. Ellie talked about the over 100 alliances that are around the country, and that's really the grassroots level where all the work is done. And what the alliances do is they organize and host events. And those events fall into 3 categories, what we call discussion groups, workshops, and debates. So the discussion groups are the least formal. They're typically on an order of 1 or 2 hours. Most of the time is spent in breakout groups. They can be either online or in person. The Berkeley, Oakland, San Francisco Alliance, we pretty much do all of ours online. We generally get about anywhere from 50 to 80 people from around the country. And then we break into groups of 4 or 5, maybe 6 people. What we do in the discussion groups is we have a topic. The topic might be, should we deport all illegal immigrants? And we discuss the topic. We may have reading materials that we send out ahead of time. We have questions that can guide a conversation in a breakout room. All the breakout rooms have a facilitator, and that's how we maintain a good conversation going. Everybody is welcome to state their views and speak as freely as they can, knowing that they're in an environment where people want to just listen and understand. Workshops are a little bit more structured. They can be 2 to 3 hours. They can also be online. A lot of them are in person. The debates are a little bit different. On the debates, what we do is we have a debate chair, And we come up with what's called a debate resolution, which is something like an assertion that instead of the question being, should all illegal immigrants be deported, the debate question or resolution may be, all illegal immigrants should be deported. And what we ask all the participants to do is to take a position. That is, everybody can speak, everybody can state their position for or their position against the debate resolution. So those are the events that we put on, and they're available. You can see them online. All the calendar for the events coming up is on braverangels.org, and you'll see something called events. The purpose of what we do is similar to what everybody, Cheryl and Supervisor Burgess have been saying, which is to get people to understand one another. We have people with very, very different views, and it takes a lot to try to understand what those views are. But we also learn that we have a lot more in common. When we get together, we're amazed at how maybe we don't agree on everything, but we're a lot closer than we often think. And I hear that comment at the end of our meetings when we all come back to the main room after the breakout rooms. That's the one comment that I hear the most often. So Ellie, anything that you want to add?
And I just, as the moderator, try to keep things going. So I need to kind of wrap this up so I can bring our next panelist on. But go ahead, Ellie.
Sure.
I've got this slide deck if you want to see what I've got and point me in the right direction. I've got this one here.
Go to slide 5.
Okay, going down to slide 5.
Yeah, we'll wrap this up in a couple of minutes.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay. Ellie,
You're on mute.
We have a creed, and we call it the Braver Angels Way. And it is with this feeling and belief in the creed that we conduct all our events. We state our views freely and fully without fear. We treat people who disagree with us with honesty, dignity, and respect. We believe everyone is worth engaging. We avoid exaggeration and stereotypes. We look for common ground where it exists, and if possible, find ways to work together. We believe that in disagreements, we can disagree better. And when we come together for our events, we talk about it being a brave space. As has been mentioned, it is a very difficult thing to sometimes challenge someone in a respectful way. It's all about having curiosity and being committed to understanding, not fighting back. We all have our story. We all have our values that we bring to the discussion. And if you can remember, everybody has that story. It is a common human experience, how we came to believing in things. And we listen deeply, and we acknowledge each other as humans, and it's amazing, but really magic can happen, and you can make friends. We hold our discussions in a very civil way, and we have meeting facilitators, as I believe Dick mentioned, that keeps things going and keeps things civil. And we try to seek common ground when we can. Dick?
Now let's go to the next slide, please. So how do we do that? There's 2 areas that we emphasize. One is what we call active listening, and the second is what we call courageous curiosity. And what we have to understand is, and I think I heard this from somebody, we are humans. We have evolved over millions of years, and we have evolved ways to deal with threats. And those threats can be physical and they can be verbal. And we usually characterize that as fight or flight. So if you're at the dinner table and somebody brings up politics and someone says, no, let's not talk about politics, that's flight. But the other thing we do, and this is where we really try to teach people how to understand. What we do if we're threatened by what somebody says is we stop listening and we start determining our rebuttal. And what we try to encourage people to do is to be curious. be curious about what they're saying. And curiosity can take a lot of courage, because when someone speaks, we oftentimes don't really understand what they say. And are you going to be the first one to raise your hand and say, I didn't understand? What did that word mean? I didn't understand that. And that's where courageous curiosity comes in. And that's what we try to get people to do. And when we do that, we find that people really do understand better. And that's how we also disagree better. Ellie, anything to add?
I think that was great, Dick. And I will just close our presentation by telling you a little bit about the Berkeley, Oakland, San Francisco Alliance. We have a discussion. We've become somewhat famous in the organization for the way we put on discussion events. They are held the fourth Sunday of each month. And if you're a member of our mailing list, which you can easily do by going on our website, you will get those announcements. You can also search for us on Eventbrite and experience what we do. The fourth Sunday of each month from 4 to 6 p.m. We always try to discuss something very current, something that's causing a lot of, difficulties in society. So we stay current with our topics. We will often offer pre-reads, one from the right, one from the left, to better inform people and get everybody on the same page. We guide the discussions with questions that we write ahead of time, but if that doesn't prevent you from saying anything you want to say, but it gives some structure to the discussion and keeps a format going well. And most of the time is spent in the breakout rooms. So people do have this experience of talking to people from the other side, and it can be transformative for a lot of people. And we get, right now, we have an event coming up on Sunday. We've already got 90 people signed up. So we're looking forward to a wonderful discussion about the current state of our administration and what's happening that's changed. So I want to thank all of you for inviting us today, for being with us today. And it's been a pleasure. Dick, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, just again, thanks.
Thank you so much. We're gonna have one more panelist, and then if you have some questions that you would like to share with us, please put them into the Q&A at the bottom here, and we will have folks help process those, and we'll try to get to those. Our next person is Jose Gonzalez. He is the Election Services Manager for Contra Costa County Clerk-Recorder Elections Department. He has been with the county since 2006, holding various positions throughout his career, including time with the clerk recorder. His journey began in the elections division, where he surveyed election day polling places for accessibility, helped recruit poll workers, and provided training. He's been a Contra Costa County resident since he was 10 years old. Currently residing in East Contra Costa, probably the best place to live. And Jose's gotten to deal with, the front line of dealing with different people with different ideas about the whole election process. So he's going to talk about how they are trying to build those bridges. Welcome, Jose.
Thank you, Supervisor Burgess, and thank you everyone who is in attendance today. Thank you for joining today's webinar. It's sincerely a pleasure to see that these types of conversations are taking place as we reflect on the latest election cycle and look forward to the future. Today, I want to talk about one of the most critical challenges we face the last few years, and for many other elections officials across the county, was the spread of misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation. As we know, elections are the cornerstone of any democracy, a reflection of the will of the people. But the last few years revealed that the integrity of our elections were under threat in ways we hadn't experienced before. Misinformation, false or inaccurate information spread quickly. Disinformation, intentionally false narratives were rampant, and malinformation, distortion of true facts, sought to undermine public trust. During the election, digital platforms played a major role, amplifying both credible information and harmful narratives alike. The speed at which rumors about voting procedures, candidates, and election results spread was unusual, and the impact was undeniable. We saw trust erode, confusion set in, and doubts cast out the very foundation of our democracy. But even in the face of these challenges, we've learned valuable lessons. We've come a long way in addressing them. In 2024, the Contra Costa County Elections Division used different campaigns to deal with these issues with a strategy to be accessible to our communities, debunk common election integrity and security rumors, educate the public on election processes, and train and empower community ambassadors. These campaigns were the Certified Election Observer Program, CEO for short, a public education and communications campaign with Brown Miller, and an outreach event at local high school and community colleges. The Certified Election Observer Program was launched in order to increase public trust in elections by providing an even more transparent and educational view in the entire elections process. Unlike traditional election observers who visit to observe one specific activity, the CEO program aimed to provide individuals an overall view of the election process with behind-the-scenes access. The program is rigorous with a combination of online and in-person sessions in order to provide a complete elections experience and understanding. There are up to 4 personal visits scheduled to the elections department to observe processes related to the voting system, vote-by-mail ballots, and post-election day canvass activities. Polling place activities included attending a poll worker training class and visiting an early voting site or polling place on election day. The total time invested is approximately 12 to 14 hours. The program begins with public logic and accuracy tests of the voting system during an election cycle and includes a facility tour and review of security measures on the same day. The public education and communications campaign with Brown Miller was launched to combat rumors and conspiracy theories. The Contra Costa County Elections Division ran ahead of the problem with a year-long integrated communications campaign that drew on the best principles of public relations, marketing, education, and community engagement to show voters they could trust local elections. The campaign deployed a show, don't tell strategy to visually disarm unconfirmed myths, rumors, and disinformation. It created and disseminated messages, videos, and materials tailored to the specific concerns of key audiences. A dedicated website provided reliable, nonpartisan information to proactively pre-bunk mis- and disinformation and inoculate voters against rumors. The campaign trained and empowered community ambassadors to build trust while sharing facts and leverage traditional and social media to amplify informative, positive stories about election integrity. The far-reaching and innovative campaign increased voter trust in local elections by 12% and empowered 45% of voters unsure whether to trust elections with the information they needed to form an opinion. Our office also coordinated outreach events at local high schools, community colleges, and community events providing registration kits, including forms, stickers, and engaging in conversation, answering questions about the elections process. Our efforts yielded approximately 1,800 pre-registered high school students and about 200 students who signed up and worked the polls on election day. Throughout the election cycle, collaboration became key. Brown Miller, social media ambassadors, and our office worked together to combat misleading narratives and provide clear, transparent information. We saw how much progress could be made when we united our efforts to create a safer, more reliable flow of information. Perhaps most importantly, we recognized that addressing misinformation was not about pointing fingers, but about understanding. Many who fell prey to false narratives did so out of lack of access to accurate information. Engaging in open, respectful conversations helped to break down barriers and create opportunities to restore trust in the system. Empathy and patience were key in helping others critically examine the information they were consuming. Lastly, civic engagement was the backbone of our success. We witnessed how powerful it was to participate in discussions with community members. We saw firsthand how each of us had a part to play in creating an informed and active electorate. Next, I would like to play a video, and it's a video interview from CBS News of a participant of the CEO program and their experience.
Give me just a second.
election is just 2 weeks from tomorrow, and official ballots have already been mailed out. But that's the easy part. Election officials worry disinformation around the 2020 presidential election could have a ripple effect in 2024. So our Itai Hod went to Contra Costa County, where election officials are opening their doors to everyday citizens. He's in our studio right now, but I know that it's all in the name of transparency. So tell us what you found out.
It is. Good evening, Juliet. It's a problem facing many election workers in 2024. More and more people are becoming susceptible to misinformation, not to mention a presumed presidential nominee who is still pushing the false claim that 2020 election was stolen. That's why officials in Contra Costa County say they have nothing to hide, and they're inviting people to look behind the curtains.
Like many Americans, Shannon Jean believes the 2024 election could be one of the most consequential of his lifetime. Worried it won't be free or fair.
I want to trust, I want to believe, but, you know, how would we know? That's the question. Are you guys all set?
An entrepreneur from Lafayette, Shannon says he's not an election denier, but his trust in the process has eroded in recent years.
Typically in the past, it's like, well, the government or the media would tell you, but those are very untrustworthy institutions in most people's eyes right now. A voter can go to.
Which is why Shannon, a self-described center conservative, is taking part in a new program in Contra Costa County called CEO. Stands for Certified Election Observer.
This is where we test to make sure that our scanners are functioning.
Today, he's watching the testing of the county's Dominion voting machines ahead of the primaries.
I want to be a good citizen in my, really, and just couldn't be a keyboard warrior anymore.
The job of election observers is to view election processes and increase voter confidence in its integrity.
What was here before these machines?
For years, they went mostly unnoticed, till the 2020 contest, when rampant conspiracy theories put election workers in the spotlight. A new research survey released in September shows trust in the federal government fell to 16%. Near historic low.
After 2020, it became very challenging.
Tommy Gong is the deputy clerk recorder for Contra Costa County, overseeing more than 700,000 votes. He says in this age of uncertainty, there's a growing need for transparency and accountability. Contra Costa is betting on a solution that places extra eyes and ears on the process to help remove any lingering doubts.
By us doing this, by showing our logic and accuracy tests, the process by which we verify the vote by mail ballots, what safeguards we have for polling places, all of the security related to our voting equipment, that they can gain that education and then that confidence in our process.
We got it.
At the end of the day, the Dominion machines passed the test with flying colors.
Successful LNA!
Leaving Shannon feeling more confident.
We need to be here. You have to, who's watching the watchers, right?
We have a security guard.
Election observers keeping their eyes on the prize. Fair, honest, and secure election.
Well, good thing it actually worked out in front of the public's eye.
Yeah,
right?
and everyone was waiting to see whether it was going to.
And if it didn't, they'd actually have to redo it in front of everyone's eyes.
Correct, until they got it right.
I would hope. Yeah. Okay, for sure. That's how we not have that misinformation going on anymore. Okay, so is every county doing this? That was Contra Costa County.
Yeah, so by law, every county has to allow for people to come and watch the process.
Mhm.
That's just the law, and it happens every year. Although this year, Contra Costa County is taking it a step further, essentially inviting them to look at every aspect of the elections. The idea behind it is if you hear it from people who you know. So these people, these 12 people who signed up for this program will later go on to the community, answer some questions that they get from their fellow citizens. And the idea is that you'll probably be more open if you hear it from someone you actually
Yeah, kind of the water cooler conversations like, hey, guess what I did the other day?
Exactly.
It's all legit. Okay. Itai, thank you. Great story. Appreciate it. So here are some key dates for the primary. Tomorrow, February 20th, is the last day to register. You can conditionally register and vote with a provisional ballot up to and on.
Thank you, Albert. So as we look back, it's clear that while the challenges we faced were significant, we made meaningful progress in combating the spread of false information. We learned the importance of staying informed, of collaborating across sectors, of engaging with others empathetically, and of holding ourselves accountable to the democratic process. While misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation will continue to be an ongoing concern, the lessons learned have laid the groundwork for a stronger, more informed electorate in the future. The work doesn't stop here, but we are certainly more prepared for the challenges ahead. On behalf of the Contra Costa County Elections Division, I would like to thank you for being a part of this conversation and encourage you to continue to work together to ensure that the integrity of our democracy remains. I would also like to share a couple of links if you would like to learn more about these programs, and I'll post those in the chat. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jose. You know, it's interesting that we've heard quite a few similar words: courage, empathy, trust, curiosity. So I think it's really true that we all need to be approaching this with that. And I don't know that empathy is emphasized as much as it should be. We have a couple questions, but one of the questions I would like to throw out to all of our panelists, if you guys all want to show your video, that might be a good idea. And I, as the moderator, also have a responsibility to try to keep it on time and all of that. So I'm going to be encouraging you to keep your words as concise as possible. But you know, one of the things that people have talked about, and I think one of the questions kind of went to that, and that is, I'm struggling to find common ground with a longtime friend. She refuses to discuss and find any common ground. I'm fearing that her silence makes her complicit with affairs I find abhorrent. I feel that our core values are not aligned. I'm ready to move on, but wonder if there are steps I should take to maintain a relationship. And as someone that deals with people that I think sometimes they weaponize the idea that I'm trying to hear them, and they're just going to throw all kinds of things that are not true because they want to have that debate. So what is your advice? I'm going to give this over first to Cheryl and then to the Braver Angel folks that want to try to jump in.
Sure, sure. Thank you. I mean, I think one thing to remember is really, you know, how important that relationship is to you. Is it somebody you've been in relationship with for a long time? And to look at the places that you together have found commonality and not on politics, right? Family, joyful events that you've done together. And I think, you know, the idea that one, if they're trying to kind of throw that like verbal bomb to try and get you to react, I think it's a great opportunity to pause, to take a breath when you're in conversation with them, and to ask a genuine question back. Rather, don't take that bomb bait. Just say, you know, tell me more about that. Tell me what leads you to believe that. I mean, those are the kind of ways that you'd stay in conversation relationship with someone. And I know Braver Angels, great workshops to help build that civic muscle.
Ellie, Dick?
Yeah, so I'll just build on that. That's absolutely right. In terms of, you know, asking, you know, how do you think this? Why do you think this? And just trying to draw it out of them. But when you have two people who, if they can't talk to each other, maybe a solution is go to a Braver Angels meeting where we try to put people who have opposite points of view in the same room. Where, as we saw in one of the videos, when you're in the same room with a bunch of other adults, you're sometimes forced to behave like an adult.
Absolutely. And I can tell you from personal experience that it actually works. If you have two people who are willing to talk, you can have a very meaningful conversation, and that can bring people together. I have made so many friends from the other side in Braver Angels, people that I see. We go out to dinner, we have coffee, we share stories. It can be done. But then again, you can't win all the time. Nobody bats 1,000. If someone is completely resistant, has thrown up a wall, well, it's a sad state of affairs, but there may be nothing you can do about it. And even the best psychiatrists and therapists in the world don't bat 1,000 with every patient. So you just have to do what you can do, speak from the heart, keep your heart open, and try.
Ellie, I needed that. Thank you. I'm personally dealing with some of these things myself. One of the other questions, and I'm going to start with Jose, because I think this kind of they've had to deal with this. The question is, I understand the guidance, and I'm going to ask you guys. I know that your organizations have all these things, but I'm going to ask you to give them actual how to do this. I understand the guidance, but when you're dealing with hatefulness and racial issues, how do you realistically manage that? And that's also with people that are not saying logical things or true things. I'm gonna let Jose kind of talk with the misinformation and how you handled it, and then I'm gonna let you guys kind of jump in after Jose.
Yeah, so I mean, it could be answered in a lot of different ways, but I think one technique that we've always used, and one thing that I didn't mention in my presentation, is that we also train all of our election day poll workers that work the polls on election day, and a segment of that training consists of like de-escalation training and how to find common ground and make that conversation personable. Regardless of what is being said, try to meet them where they are with their situation. They could be having a bad day and maybe not really mean what they're saying, but they're just upset because of something. But when they see that you're a person just like them and maybe have some same beliefs that they do, you can find some common ground and kind of ease the tension. So I think that is the best thing that I would be able to say on that case right there. There has been other experiences, not so much racial, but other things that are with misinformation that are either shared through social media accounts concerning what we do as election officials that are not so true. But that's why we had the program with our social media ambassadors that assisted with answering those questions. So it wasn't only coming from our office, but people that were out in the community.
Thank you. Okay, who wants to jump in?
I'd like to
Go,
jump.
Ellie. Go, Ellie.
There are famous lyrics by the brilliant lyricists and musicians Rodgers and Hammerstein, who wrote a song, and the lyric went like this: "You've got to be taught to hate and fear. You've got to be taught from year to year to hate all the people your relatives hate. You've got to be carefully taught." And it goes on from there. The point is, people that wake up every day with hate in their heart have been taught hate, just as you may have been taught the absolute opposite, to have an open heart and to not hate. So again, it really boils down to coming to the realization that everybody has had different experiences in their life. For some, it's about generational teaching of hate. For others, there might have been a horrible incident in their life that could have happened, a terrible, brutal crime that could have happened to someone that caused this, and they just can't get past it. You're not going to win with everybody. But just one more comment. There is a very well-known gentleman in the world who has done phenomenal work with Ku Klux Klan members. His name is Daryl Davis, and he made it his business to knock on the door of Ku Klux Klan members, invite them for coffee, sit down and have discussions, and confront them with the question, why do you hate Black people? And from there, he developed phenomenal insights into the inner workings of people's thoughts and minds and where the hate comes from. And he actually has collected hundreds of Ku Klux Klan robes because people have disavowed themselves from the organization and handed over their robe to him. It can be done, but again, it takes great, great courage. Not everybody is up to the level of Daryl Davis. He is a Black man, and he did that with white haters. So we can only offer examples of real life situations and hope that people will just give it their best shot. You can't win with everybody.
Cheryl, do you have some thoughts on how to deal with racism, hatred, those kind of things?
Yeah, it is hard, right? It's hard. And I would start by saying if people don't feel safe, don't go into that kind of experience or moment. Not everybody is an amazing Daryl Davis, right? However, the idea that Ellie mentioned about being taught or having an impression in your life because you have not gotten proximate to somebody else with a different life experience. So, that is one way to start yourself, by getting yourself proximate with others who have different life experiences, different skin color, different political ideology. Braver Angels, other places offer those kind of safe, convening spaces to do that. And I think it goes back to some of the things we said earlier about being in genuine question with the other. Is another human being? How do they say you as a human being? Find the places people are mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers. There's places that we find all sorts of common experience in life that's different from the politics or the narrative that we're living under, the disinformation that we're living under. So I would say, take a small baby step. That's one way forward, I would say.
Yeah. During COVID, actually it was, I don't know, I think it was actually before COVID, but during COVID, things got really, really hard in our board meetings. People were showing up and saying very hateful, hurtful things towards our staff and towards other members of the public. And we worked with the League of Women Voters to create some civility, and we stated it, and we committed to modeling that. And I think one of those things is that I try very hard to do that on a regular basis. It helps to really care, and to really do. But I have come across people that do not want to do that. They want to fight. And I liked what Ellie said. Sometimes that is what you're dealing with. And so to put yourself into those conversations and to be curious and to listen, to try to at least get the germ of what it is that they need is important. Can you talk about resources for communities, for organizations that might want to bring people together and do that within their own communities? You guys can jump in.
Well, there are a lot of organizations out there that actually are doing bridging work. A good friend of mine in Braver Angels said he actually researched before he joined Braver Angels. There are at least over 250 right now and counting. So there are a lot of resources out there. Living room conversations. Their head and founder is right here in the Bay Area. They're wonderful. And all these organizations have a little bit different spin on how they approach the depolarization work. So you can, sample many. So if you go online and even to Google and you can gather a list of organizations that depolarize in your area. I can't list 250 off the top of my head, but they are all out there and they're trying their level best. So a little bit of independent research, and there are a tremendous number of resources.
Cheryl?
There's a couple examples I'll just give, because Ellie's right. There's actually over 1,000 different organizations, and some of these will be, part of the resources you are sent. But a couple come to mind. The idea of actually physically building something together, or doing a project, community project together across difference, is a really powerful endeavor. So, for example, I know that Habitat for Humanity, the YMCA, Interfaith America, and maybe Catholic Charities are working together in a number of different communities to actually build physical things together, so people get to know each other because they're giving to their community. That's one. There's just really sort of a multitude. I was trying to think of the other place of, like the National Civic League, for example. They have programs that actually help policymakers, and NICD has some training for policymakers to be able to engage their differences productively, respectfully, go through an example of a personal story sharing for political leaders outside the view of the media and the public. People get to know each other. Like, supervisors talking about, maybe during that pandemic, maybe you had the opportunity to figure out what really moves you as a policymaker. Why did you come to this, wanting to do this job, which is often, unfortunately, thankless, but we should be thankful for. So, a couple programs like that.
I know we're going to have some resources that are going to be listed. And we do have a video, and I'm trying to be a really good moderator. I need to have the resource page that Madeline wants at 5:25. So I'm going to keep this going. But I will offer you this last question because I thought it was good. And then we're going to play the video, Albert. So that one that was for Cheryl. So I'm just giving you a heads up so that we have really good going. But I love this question. It says, how do you facilitate these kind of conversations when nearly all of those around us are like-minded? I would like to be more effective in helping combat polarization, but the nature of my job and family life means I don't encounter too many people with different opinions other than joining Braver Angels, of course. And I do think that so many of us feel safe in that bubble, and that it's very vulnerable. And I've had those conversations, those vulnerable conversations that mean I have to kind of step outside and be curious and vulnerable to someone that may not be receptive. But can you talk about how to step outside of that bubble, I think is what she called it?
Well, you have to take a step. You have to pick up your foot and move forward. Nobody can do that for you. It's about making a decision. And Braver Angels, obviously I'm representing Braver Angels, and it's not a contest. I want to support all the organizations that are out there doing this kind of work. But we offer a variety of methods for joining us. Online, we were forced online with all our initiatives during the pandemic, and a lot of organizations were, and that makes it a lot easier for some people. No parking, no travel time, no nothing. Sit in your pajamas if you want to. You just have to decide you're going to pick up your foot and take a step forward. It's really a personal decision, and if you're really interested, go for it. But there's one other thing. There are, even within our own group, whether you're a conservative or you're a liberal or a libertarian, there is a range of thinking. And I have had some really contentious conversations within my own group. You don't really have to go too far. To find somebody that you disagree with on something. And then once you understand the skills necessary to have the conversation, believe me, you don't have to go very far. I can tell you again, this is from personal experience. So you just got to take advantage of the opportunities when they come your way.
All right, so I have 1 minute. I'm going to give you each about 15, 20 seconds to say the last thing that you want to say. I know I'm really generous. I'm going to start with Dick, since you're at the top of my thing.
Yeah. So I'm just going to pick up a little bit on what Ellie said. People feel threatened. That's why it's hard to step out of their bubble.
Mhm.
And the way to overcome those threats is to adopt curiosity. Replace threats with curiosity.
Great. Jose?
I would just encourage people to, get to know your neighbor. You'd be surprised how many things you have in common, even when you think you don't, and it's really nice when those conversations begin to happen.
And Ellie?
I really can't think of anything else to share except be brave. Try it. Have a conversation and it could change your world. I mean, people have said it was a transformative experience. So you just have to try it.
And Cheryl?
Yeah, and I would just add that not only your neighbor may have some differences and shared commonality, but find places. There are so many online places, whether it's Braver Angels, whether it's Common Sense American, there's places that you can get into conversations and relationships with somebody who's outside your physical bubble. And I would encourage you to do that because that's where we learn. That's where we build this civic muscle.
I agree. And I'll just say, before I hand it over to Madeline, sometimes it's nice to start just one-on-one with somebody, and you don't even necessarily have to trust them. You can say, I'm about to be vulnerable and I'm going to say something that I feel really kind of nervous saying. And that usually helps someone go, oh, this person is not, they're taking their shield down and they're going to say something, and I've got to meet them there. And so I just want to encourage people to keep reminding we're all human. We're all going through things. Some of us are scared. Some of us are angry. Some of us are afraid. And when we're interacting with those people, we need to understand that they are going through the similar things. So, Madeline, it is 5:26. I am a minute late. Don't scold me. I'm turning it over to you.
No scolding. No scolding here. It's a no scolding zone here. And before I begin the thank yous, let me just let everyone know, all of you who registered for this event and received the Zoom link will also receive a list of resources that the panelists have provided. So those resources will be available to you. So look for that soon. It is coming in your email. And of course, the resources are also available at each of the websites of the different organizations that we heard today. Okay. On behalf of the League of Women Voters, Diablo Valley, the League of Women Voters, West Contra Costa County Library, and CCTV, I want to extend our genuine thank you to our moderator, Supervisor Burgess, and each of our panelists for being here today to offer such an informative and timely conversation about bridging the gap through respectful conversations. Here are the panelists: our Supervisor Burgess, Cheryl Graeve, Ellie Sears, Dick Patterson, and Jose Gonzalez. I also want to thank Melanie Spears, who is the League of Women Voters Diablo Valley Chair of the Civic Engagement Committee, for all her help in developing the webinar, and also our Spanish interpreter, Vanessa Cardenas, who provided a great service for the organization. Thank you for providing this. This is a service that is funded by the Contra Costa Library and the League of Women Voters of Diablo Valley. Community Conversations, Bridging the Gap Through Respectful Conversations, is being rebroadcast on CCTV at the following dates and times: Thursday, February 20th at 4, that was today. Wednesday, the 26th at 9 a.m. Friday, the 28th at 7 p.m. Sunday, March 2nd at 11 a.m. and Wednesday, March 5th at 9 a.m. And Friday, March 7th at 7 p.m. and Sunday, March 9 at 11. The Community Conversations is also available on the YouTube channels of the League of Women Voters Diablo Valley and the Contra Costa County Library. Please save the date for our next community conversation on April 17, 2025 at 4 p.m. Community Conversations programs are a partnership between the League of Women Voters Diablo Valley and the League of Women Voters Contra Costa County, the Contra Costa County Library, and CCTV. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization encouraging informed and active participation in government. The League never endorses or opposes candidates or political parties. We influence public policy through education and advocacy. We invite community members to join the League and support the work we do. Thank you for your time and good evening.